Alright, this is to all you helmet enthusiasts like myself out there. So a lot of people like to describe the differences between McCord radiator manufactured M1 helmet shells and schlueter manufactured M1 helmet shells. But I kind of feel like describing the difference between schlueter helmet shells and schlueter helmet shells today. So the one on the left here, that one is a low 300 heat stamp manufacture date. That one would probably have been manufactured the first year that schlueter started manufacturing them in 1943. The one on the right has a heat stamp of 591. So that one would have been very, very late 1945. A lot of people say that, you know, all schlueter helmet shells were made during World War II, but I kind of feel like there was a little bit of bleed over because this one was probably, you know, this is just a guess because a lot of people, it's just interpretation for the schlueter heat stamps, but I'm going to go ahead and guess maybe around August or September, maybe even later of 1945, so the war basically would have been already done. But we'll just kind of go into some more of the differences here. So the one on the left, being a first kind of mid-war manufacture, does bear the shiny, you know, stainless steel rim where you can see the exposed parts with the front seam. This one here has that later war manganese rather, you know, kind of rear seam, basically, you know, just a finishing edge to these helmets. Other differences are here, and we'll kind of flip the helmets around here, is that these ones, you'll hear the OD, which is olive drab. A lot of people will claim this is, you know, a khaki color, but this one is the OD3. Essentially what it is kind of like a tan, you know, olive color. A lot of people say it's khaki because when it gets really old and exposed to sunlight a lot, it does fade to khaki. This one, being very lightly used, still kind of bears that more olive type color to it. Whereas this one here, like I said, we'll flip them around, does bear that OD7 chin strap, which is just a darker olive color, kind of more representative of, you know, late to closing World War II there. A couple other differences here. We'll go over the paint. This one is kind of more what you'd expect to have seen, just the standard kind of GI-OD color, whereas this one might be kind of hard to readily see and apparent, but to the naked eye here, it is more of a, almost kind of like a grayish olive color. It's really dark compared to this one to the naked eye here. As far as the finish goes, there isn't too much difference in the cork texture. This one maybe being a little bit more, you know, tight, a little bit more abrasive. This one, you know, it is older, so it does kind of have a little bit more burnished areas to it, you know, where the scuff marks are, wherever they may have been, wherever it was, you know, placed, you know, repeatedly. But we'll kind of go ahead and flip these helmets around here so we can take a look at the chin straps and all that. Let's see if we can get a good look. So these two helmets here are good to kind of compare side to side, just because they are 100% complete examples, so they kind of bear true faith to, you know, kind of what I'm trying to interpret here. So schlueter manufactured, as far as I can tell, I don't really think I've seen any that have any brass hardware, just because mid-war they generally were using the painted steel buckles. So both the OD3 and the OD7 have the painted steel. Kind of take a look directly at the rear there, and I'll try to zoom in a little bit if it'll let me. So there is the rear seam of this later war schlueter. So you can kind of see it's kind of changed the shape of the shell being in the rear seam there. I kind of like to say that this one here has butt cheeks just because it kind of puckers into the center there and there. So aside from those, readily seen differences, the shape, schlueter does have a very distinctive shape. There honestly really is no guessing, on which one's a McCord and which one's a schlueter. If you've kind of seen a couple, schlueter generally has this flatter kind of, brim area to where, the McCord, I'll actually show. This one's kind of not really the best example, but it does have that kind of different, more curved profile, as well as if you look at it, compared to the schlueter looks almost oval shaped completely when looked at it from the underneath, but the McCord it has this more peaked front here, kind of looks more like an egg shape when you compare them side to side underneath. The McCord, it does have a wider front view. It is holding it basically next to each other. Like I said, it's kind of a bad example, but these schlueter pots can fit damn near perfectly inside a McCord shell, just because these probably are almost a good at least centimeter more narrow than the McCord. But we'll stop comparing the McCord to the schlueter here because we're not doing that right now. But getting back to the shape of these two, they both have those same kind of distinct shape with the flat brims, the lower, curve there. It's still there, not anything like the McCord. And one other thing too. So this earlier war schlueter, it's kind of hard to tell from this angle. It does have that more high-profiled dome, rather, that you would still kind of expect to see. This one here, not as much. So I kind of thought that was strange when I was first comparing these two side by side, and you may or may not see it with the naked eye, but this one is more rounded. These high-profile, early mid-war manufactured World War II helmets, whether they were schlueter or McCord, kind of stuck a little bit straight up more, and then kind of, still following that egg type shape, kind of this high profile dome area. This one here kind of surprised me because I would have figured that they would have been using the same molds, but it is more round and has less of that high profile. Again, these are same manufacturer, just manufactured, damn near 3 years apart almost. Maybe 2.5 years apart, but just kind of struck me as odd. Other than that, looking at them at the front, it's that same more narrow profile, less of the rounded sides that you would expect to see on a McCord. But just with a trained eye, it is pretty apparent to tell, a schlueter apart from anything else. But, yeah, just kind of as a reference material here, just because I have two pretty good examples of an early war schlueter and a, basically, I won't even call it a World War II, but a late 1945 issue, I'll just kind of flip these to the side again here. I know this isn't the best camera angle, but... yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this look at these two helmets, and I might come back around with something else. Alright.